So if you take a look at your screen, that's the solo that you just downloaded. And I want to just talk quickly about the feel, because to me, that's really the most important thing, because feel is everything in this tune. So how do I approach it? Well, first of all, this is swing. And it's what we call 16th note swing. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's actually swing. Now it's more of a straight ahead swing. In other words, the notes, the distance between the notes are a little closer together. For example, if we were doing Oscar swing, it'd be like. This is more like. It's kind of like where you have a dotted quarter note and a dotted eighth and a 16th note if it was really hard swing. And then there's triplets where you're only playing the two of them. And then there's this type of swing where the notes are really close together. Okay, so that's really the feel that you're looking for. If I were to say, how do we actually do that? I would go back and listen to the Young-Holt version of Soulful Strut. Just listen to it. Now, these guys were not improvisers. If you actually listen to what they play, this part where it's like, I mean, they're just kind of like, they're not really improvising. They're trying when it goes to the second chorus, but it's very limited. So they're not doing things like lines. Okay? So you have to really think about and feel what's not even there when they play it. But if you start there, you can kind of grab and feel the era. It's very laid back feel. It's like so the bass is like and then when they syncopate this line here, so that's really the feel that you're looking for. I would suggest maybe, and I know that the video is distorted up, I'll probably cut it out of the final video because everybody said the piano was distorted and the vocal mic was distorted. So I'll try to cut that part out, but I will play it a little bit later in its entirety, just another solo, so they can kind of get the feel. In fact, let's just do a little bit of that now. So I would start with like chords, and of course we're just dealing with B flat major and E flat major. Now you can play E flat major 7 or E flat major 9 or any kind of E flat major. You can play it in fours. But it's just 1 to 4. Now the interesting thing about that is that if you play 4, it's really like Lydian. So it's like make sure you use always an A natural. So when you go to E flat, don't play A flat. It doesn't really belong there. Play A natural. So it's like F over E flat. And then, so if you play F over E flat or F over B flat, it's the same. And you just float back. So that's why it floats, because there's no like dominant 7th that needs to resolve. I did play a dominant 7th once during the tune just to kind of put some dissonance in there like this. I just did like a flat 2-7 chord. Amot says, okay, we can live with this. I don't know. It changes week to week. I don't know why it was distorting. I didn't do anything different. I left the settings all the same. But just a quick shout out to everybody who hung in there, because we did lose quite a few people during the technical meltdown. So, but Steve and James and Keith and Philip and Alan and Don and Emoti and everybody who's still here, thumbs up to you. We'll live with the sound the way it is. I don't want to touch it at this point because I don't want to go back to distortion. Anyway. So I hope, do you have any questions about that? Because if you remember Kool and the Gang and the Jackson 5 and what were some of the others we mentioned, right? Obviously, Young Holt Unlimited, and also who else did I mention? I can't remember who I mentioned earlier. Anyway, I'm having kind of like a brain melt because of this whole technical thing. But if you go back to that era, you have to think about, well, what were they like at that time? I mean, tie-dyed t-shirts were starting to come in. We had mini skirts. We had VW buses. I mean, it was really like a sexual revolution. And that's where this music came from, if you think about it. So, oh, thank you, Steve. You're hearing things perfectly. That's good. Well, I'm glad somebody is. Ramsey Lewis is another name. Yeah, so, from that whole sort of like Black America era in the late 60s and 70s with funk and fusion and all that, you really have to spend time there listening to that music to really get the feel. Other than the fact that it is 16th note swing and that it does float between these two chords. You just have to listen to it and you have to spend time playing it. Otherwise, if you don't have that feel, it's just going to sound corny and square and all of the things that the 60s were not. All right. Let's play page 1 of this solo. Let me see if I can make it a little bit smaller so you can see the whole thing. Yeah, you can see most of it. So I'm going to try to play this. So this is the sheet music that you downloaded. And I'm going to stop let me play the first page through first, and then we'll see if I have any comments about it. So again, I haven't really practiced this, so let's see how it goes. So let's get the feel first. This is what I would do. I would get the feel first. I'm going to slow it down just because there's a lot of notes to read. I didn't really play the left hand as it's written. That's what I transcribed from what I played in the solo before. I'm just kind of trying to get the right hand right, which I think I got pretty closely. But if you actually look at the first bar, I mean, that's just bebop, right? You're talking about adding a bebop flavor, but having that swing feel. You have to count in 16th notes. It's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2, 3, 4, right? In order to get the melody right, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? 3, 4. So it's like you have to count the 16th note rests and the actual notes themselves in order to kind of get the melody down or this solo down. But that's the way to do it in terms of counting. But feel is a different thing. So bar 1 is like, it's like just coming down in like an enclosure heading to this destination note. And this is just from the B flat scale. And then the E flat scale, what am I missing? Something like that. So it's just E flat, and then it's got a sharp 5. It's like bebop scale, right? And then blues. So we're on the second line. Spell the chord. Spell the chord for E flat. And I love this double stop. So it's just really making those little cool rhythms. Again, bebop. So we're combining really good bebop jazz piano with this sort of like funk fusion era and making it swing. So we're on the last line, so B flat major 7. Really just scales over those last 2 bars. Let me change the page and let's play the second page and see what kind of trouble we can get into here. One more time. No. There we go. One more time. Yeah, so there's actually some cool lines in there. Let's go from the first bar. So just from the B flat scale. That's the thing about this type of tonality. You don't need to get too far out. You don't need to play bebop scales even though we are. You don't need to play bebop even though we are. You can just play from the scale, make little patterns. And this is just, the second line is B flat major 7 chord. Just spelling the chord. Let's go to the E flat major 7 on the second line. So E flat. A natural. Like just chromatics, really. Yeah, kind of cool. let's check in with you and see if you have any questions about this stuff. How many of you think this would be a fun solo to learn? I actually kind of like it. I didn't really practice it, but I like it. Yeah, Paul says on the E flat chord, sometimes you stack force from the A. Yeah, I mean, it's just, I'm just really going up the scale of E flat. So it's like an E flat Lydian scale with an A natural. And David says, I think it's really good when we witness you working a line, even when you might have missed a note from the score. So we should never be afraid of working out an error. Yeah, absolutely. Good point. Thanks, David. Paul says, bebop versus swing. Bebop swings, but swing era happened bebop. Swing era was big band. Yeah, that's true. Bebop, smaller groups, and more chromatic solo approach, I think. Yeah. Yeah, all good points. Excellent. Are there any questions? How do you describe the difference between bebop and swing? And that's, I think, what Paul was answering. So thank you for doing that. I think that's a fair answer. I would say bebop is more of a chromatic approach. It was a language that was developed by Charlie Parker and other players, whereas the swing era was more just about playing tunes. And the soloing was not as involved. The soloing would be fairly simple. In fact, if you looked at a swing era person might play this. Whereas a bebop person might do this. So it's more like an eighth note approach. Somebody asked me, go shortly outside during the solo. So that's what I did. I wasn't really thinking about it at the time, so it might have been a little bit too outside. But yeah, there you go. So that's really, to me, that's the difference between bebop and swing. A swing approach was more of a straight ahead, playing inside the scale, inside the chord, whereas bebop was more of a language that was developed to play more complex solos on top of the same idea. So if this was a swing idea, a bebopper would go like this. Kind of the same shape of the line, but a bebop player would play more eighth notes, 16th notes in order to embellish the original melody. If this is the melody, a bebopper would be like this. Okay, so it's really just a language that you need to learn. We don't have time really to discuss the whole bebop language today, but really it's just involving passing notes, chromatic passing notes, and then surrounding notes. So that's like upper, upper, lower to the destination note. That's a very important bebop enclosure. So we're enclosing this destination note from above and below. I do think, Francis, that this is a good exercise to get the feeling across the vanilla scale. It is vanilla scale, really. It's so like major. You can't really go wrong. Just play the B flat scale, and you're good to go. Yeah, about this groove. Richard, I hear what you're saying. I'm not sure what you're referring to in terms of breezing. Maybe you could put a link to that, find it on YouTube and stick a link. Maybe that's something we can do some other time, because I'm not familiar exactly with what the tune is you're speaking of. All right, let's go back to this second page, which is still on your screen, obviously, and play it from the first bar. Bebop, right? That's really bebop there, the very last bar. So we've got a bebop scale, passing note being sharp 5, right? Destination note being that D. You notice I'm actually using the D as a destination note quite a bit, and that's because it's the third of B flat and it's the 7th of E flat major 7. Okay. Interesting stuff. If you were able to go and download this transcription, I would say learn it, because I actually think it's pretty accurate in terms of getting the feel right for this tune. I'm going to play it one more time, see if I can get most of it together without actually making too many mistakes, so that at least you have a reference. The only problem for me is I need to get it onto 2 pages so that I don't have to scroll the page in the middle. So I'm going to do that. Unfortunately, that's going to change, I think, your view, and it's going to truncate the sides of the pages, which actually, here's what I can do. I can do this. Yeah, so there you got the whole thing. So I'm just going to play this whole thing. I'm going to shut the microphone off just so you got a decent sound. in the actual transcription where there are mistakes is in my interpretation of it, which I should have probably practiced before coming online today. But I think you can kind of see the process of redoing things and playing things over and over again until you kind of get them down a little bit. So I hope you had fun watching me struggle through that. I wish I could actually get the chat to display in the right place for me, but unfortunately it's not going to do that. So I have to go here. All right. Mike. Yeah, right. Please turn your mic back on. Yeah, I got it. Thank you. I said a whole bunch of stuff that you probably didn't hear, so I apologize for that. Paul asked if there's an audio of the solo, and the answer is no, except for what I just played. I apologize, but I do not have one. Robert makes a good point. There is a vocal version called Am I the Same Girl? And it definitely is something worth checking out. So thanks for mentioning that. Everybody says vocal mic, vocal mic, vocal mic, vocal mic. Tough day today. Hang in there. Yeah, it is a tough day. Actually, I'm still thinking about Nancy. She's in the hospital today again. So hopefully she'll be back by the time I get this done. Anyway, I had to go open the door, which I remembered to do. But anyway. Yeah, it is a tough day. So I think what I'd like to do it's interesting that this thing, hopefully what I'm actually looking at in the live playback isn't where it's at. I think it's pretty close to where you are. And there's always a delay, but it looks to me, I'm watching the thing, it looks like there's like a whole minute delay or something because I'm still playing the piano in this view. Anyway. Thanks for the well wishes for Nancy. I appreciate that. Let's do a couple more things. We do have a limited amount of time. I do want to make sure that you grab that free sheet music. If you want to actually grab the sheet music for the tune itself, which is this part. Then the part that everybody knows, which is this. I sent everybody a link to that with a coupon code, so hopefully you can go and grab that to learn to play the tune. I want to talk a little bit more about this feel thing. So let me just play a little bit. I think it's important if you're just thinking about how do we actually approach this tune, you really just keep that sort of bossa nova bass going. No, nice and easy. And just play some nice chords. And just work that over as much as you can. You know, just and find some nice chord tones. notice that the left hand is just kind of doing its thing. It's got that little skip in it. And just really just play that. And then you can start to fill in some chords with that left hand too if you went like this. And then hit shots and fill in the blanks with from the right hand. I think you get the idea. Let's check in and see how everybody's doing. Jerry, I admire your amazing ability to cope with stress. Well, you know, I mean, my whole thing about stress is the amount of energy you put into resisting my situation. Here's my situation. From the moment I started this thing today, just like a few weeks ago, the sound was terrible and everybody had a bad experience. But from my perspective, what can I do? The only thing I can do is try to fix it, and I can't keep going, and I can't get flustered because that's just going to get in the way of me fixing things. For example, I wouldn't think of like rebooting the system, which I learned from a couple of weeks ago. And so I try to get back as quick as I can, but I mean, I don't want to resist my situation because it is what it is. And I appreciate you thinking of me and admiring my ability, but I've learned over time that there's nothing you can do about these things when they go wrong. And for those of you that stuck with me, kudos to you, because if you stuck with me and you have the patience, then you're far better off. You're going to learn more than everybody else who bails because they think, oh, it's not perfect. Well, nothing is ever perfect, certainly not jazz. So that's my philosophy on the moment. I'm sticking to it. You know, Ben just showed up from Boston and he's late. So you actually missed the whole like melee, the whole. If you go back in the chat, you'll see everybody's like, oh, the sound is distorting. And we had that problem before. So it's a good thing you missed it, Ben. So anyway, welcome. Where's the link you mentioned for that chord intro? Oh, you mean this? Alan asked the question. I sent you a link. Check your email. If you downloaded the sheet music today, you'll get an email from me, and it has a link to that chord intro. And really the whole tune, which I wrote out. It includes the whole like Young-Holt version arranged for solo piano. So that, I hope that answers that question. Jerry, I answered that. And then Rich says, thanks for the coupon, Paul. That was a good tutorial video. You're welcome. The fingering is tricky on the thirds. Yeah. Go check the video out, which I posted on Wednesday, because it's 1 and 3, 2 and 4, 2 and 4, 3 and 5. It's really the only way to play that. And then it changes from 1, 3, 2, 4, 3, 5, and then 3, 5. So there are two different ones. And it's really the smoothest way to play it. There's no way that you can do it without jumping fingers. So it's either 2 to 4, 2 to 4, 3 to 5, 3 to 5, just because there's so many of them. If it was just 3, but there's 4, right? So you have to jump no matter what. So the fingering is important. It is, I did in the downloadable chart where I sent everybody a link by email, if you downloaded today's sheet music, in that chart, I wrote out the fingerings because that's really the best way to play them. Alan says, I'd like to get the coupon. I sent everybody a coupon by email, but let me post it here. I'll go grab it. So there is a link to the arrangement and a coupon code. The coupon code is Soulful Strut 25, which means 25% off. It's not an expensive piece of sheet music, but as you know, and I've thanked all of you before, it helps the channel keep going, and it helps us do what we do here at Jazzmentl and reach more jazz musicians. So it's like a donation. Thank you. Alan says that the link hasn't come in yet. Yeah, I mean, it's going to come to you. It takes a 10-minute delay from the first email that you received, so hopefully you'll get that. Let me play one more time, and then we'll come back, take a few questions, and then we'll call it a day. I'm going to try to get through the tune in its entirety this time because it was distorting the first time around. So this will be the first full version of this tune that I play. And I'm going to basically play it from the beginning as soon as I find it. I'm not going to display it on your screen because I'm just going to, because I have to scroll and stuff, and well, okay, I don't have to scroll. I have to actually get it on multiple pages in order to read the entire thing, so I don't have to scroll. Let's do page display to page. There we go. Hopefully that'll work. Okay, let me play this thing. I'm going to shut the microphone off. Hopefully I'll remember to turn it back on when I come back, but it does create some feedback, so let's turn that off. I was going to play the head again, and then I just kind of bailed on it because I'd already done it. I didn't want to take up too much of your time because I'd already played the head through once. But Rich says, great groove. You could really boogie woogie walk the bass line on this song too. Yeah, you could. Let's try that. Interesting idea. I like your ideas, by the way. It's always a challenge to kind of hear how the how your suggestions make their way into my playing, things that I just don't think about. But yeah, that was a cool idea. I could have easily broken into swing at any point and played that left-hand bass line, which is kind of fun. Paul, I'm not exactly sure what I said when I emphasized in a few words what improvisation means. What words are you referring to? I honestly don't remember exactly what I said, but what improvisation means to me, if I were to like, Paul, what is the definition of improvisation? And the answer is making music and soloing over tunes with rhythm and language and feeling, and not worrying about mistakes, which is fun. If you actually think about that, there aren't really any mistakes. So even though I would break into something like this, if I'm not sure about something and the left hand is kind of like trying to find its way around, don't play so loudly, right? Just let it kind of do its thing. I don't know. Music in the moment. Yes, good point. It is very much music in the moment. Okay, so listen, it's been fun. Hopefully, I'll leave the sheet music up for a few more minutes just because we had about 10 minutes during this thing when nothing was really happening that really worked. So I'll leave the sheet music to make up for it, and then I'll take it down maybe half an hour or so. And Alan, I've done tutorials on walking bass lines before, and there's tons of stuff on walking bass lines in the Jazzmentl channel. You just have to search for it. But we will, if you bring up that question in the next session, we will get to it. Anyway, thanks everybody for your time and of course your patience today. And for those of you that gave a shout out to Nancy and well wishes, I really appreciate that. We got some not great news this week about Nancy's scans, and yeah. It's critical, and so it's been a tough week for me, and I apologize for anything that kind of spilled over into today. But if you sent out your best wishes for Nancy, I really appreciate that, and we will see everybody next week, same time, same place, same channel. Jazzmentl, if you could, when the stream is done, give the video a thumbs up and maybe even make a comment beneath the video, which adds to its stickability on YouTube. Anyway, thanks everybody. We'll see you next Saturday.